Hey everybody, welcome to this week's episode of Pensado Space. It is good to see you. Dave's got a super cool ITL in this episode about Arturia FX Collection 2. And the good folks at Arturia have teed up Ken Lewis, he of BTS and Juice WRLD fame and lots of other things, and they'll have a conversation. He uses it. So dig in here and see how much you can use this incredible collection to make your game better. But first, I want to offer you some free. What would that be? Your chance to go to Summer NAMM in Nashville for free on us and our partners at NAMM. It's pretty simple. It's July 15th and 16th. All you have to do, go to www.namm.org, and when you're checking out, put in the code Pensado, and you're good. Lots of on-site stuff, lots of off-site stuff. Nashville, the best musical city in the world. Go to it, start clicking now, join up and go. So have a good time at Summer NAMM and then let us know all about it. How do you do that? You hit us on our socials. You see them right here. Hit any of them. We'll get back to you, check in and see how you're doing. And now, without further ado, Dave Pensado and Ken Lewis.
Hey man, this is a question for me. I've never heard Atmos so much mentioned as the last 2 or 3 months, and a lot of our friends, the top engineers, are doing ads for Atmos. And what am I missing here? Is it the future? Are we not going to be able to have 808s and kicks as loud as we've always had? I mean, what's going on here, Ken?
You know, I don't know enough about Atmos mixing, but I am actively learning about it because I think it's the future for a lot of us. I don't think it's the only future, but it's a big future because Apple just basically made it the standard, and Apple is the biggest creative company on the planet. So it kind of goes to figure that there's going to be an absolute ton of Atmos work. And I think where it's mostly going to be most effective for music is in the headsets that are coming. You know, Apple's got their own version of like the Oculus Quest coming. And I think they're making huge investments into augmented reality. And that's where the Atmos is really going to play heavy. And then it's just going to be for artists. Do you want to offer your content as Atmos ready or not? And, you know, it'll just give artists another way to connect with their fans.
Do you think it will be more of a film and TV type thing than an aggressive type of music like hip hop, you know, where you need the drums loud?
I think there's going to be an emergence of Atmos only artists who create specifically for that format. That, you know, they'll still be niche. Anybody who isn't really interested in Atmos probably won't even know they exist. But I think for the most part, artists want what they want, and they don't want, unless they're somehow gravitated towards Atmos as a platform, they're going to still want to get in their car and listen to their song exactly the way they heard it in the studio. I think the 2-speaker system is going to be around for a long time. But I do think there's going to be custom artists that figure out the coolest ways to embrace the platform.
This time period has been a time of creativity, a time of enhanced tools. 5 years ago, we didn't have the tools we have now. We've got crazy tools. For example, Arturia, they've got the FX Collection 2 plugin bundle.
I just got that stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, me too. Everything in there is usable. There's no duds, and so the tools now, we're only as good as our tools, and the tools we've got now across the board are much, much better. Like in the Arturia, the bus force.
I've been starting to use that over the last few mixes, and I love the EQ section. That's just kind of a different layout than anybody's EQ section did. But the saturator on that thing to me is like
money. I've got Into the Lair coming out on Arturia. I've got some real cool things I want to share with you today, and let's just jump right in, okay? Glad to see you, by the way. I think we're really blessed with the tools we have that we use to create what we create, and I think we should kind of start giving some props to the manufacturers. We need these guys because without tools, we ain't got nothing going on. So I just got my hands on an FX Collection 2 from Arturia. Man, 22 of the best plugins that you'll hear in a while, and it's a mix of like vintage stuff and and modern stuff, then combinations of both. There's not a dud in the bunch. And check them out, okay? I'm going to share one of them with you that I really, really like. Well, a couple I'll share with you. The one I like a lot is called Bus Force, and we're going to break it down and show you some things to do with that. So stay tuned, okay? So I picked a song by Big Frida to show the Arturia Bus Force to you. My dear friend, Mike Fonseca, we call him Omega, produced it, and Teal Duville produced it and wrote them. So this is what we're doing. Watch me now. This section here is an emulation, sort of a Pultec, but now the sounds are pretty close. I think they're better than Pultecs. Oh, Dave, that's blasphemous. Yeah, but wait, I'll show you this. So. I'm going to try to use it to bring a little bit of low-end information into the snare. Let's see if I can do it. I'm not sure. We did it. What's this blue line? Well, this blue line gives you kind of an overview of what's leaving this particular module. So it's giving you like an overall kind of representation of what all of these knobs summed together are giving you. And you can see right here my mid-range boost. Now, the compressor. I love this compressor. About 10 years ago, Jack Joseph Puig came on our show and said he used to EQ with a compressor. And I'm like, what? And I guess it took me about 8 years or 7 years to understand what he said and how to do it. So let me share this with you. Let's take a look at this compressor, and we'll go through the parts, and then I'll show you how to EQ with a compressor as best I can. I'm no Jack Joseph Puig. This little guy here, I like him. It's called Force. It masquerades as a ratio on a regular compressor, but once you get right here to this infinity symbol, that's a limiter. And then over in here, you've got your ratios. Now, in this area, got the personality of a saint, just as nice as you can be. You get over here, he starts messing with you. It's intentional too. So let me show you this. Now we talked about EQing. So I'm going to take this attack and run it down to 0. All right. Okay, so what I was doing there, I was listening for the fullness of the snare, and I wanted it to be more in my face, so I got that, and then we added a little bit of top. Now on the release, it kind of gave me a different sound too, EQ wise, but what I was listening for was how it lengthened the kick and the snare to a point where the groove got enhanced. This is my favorite part of the plugin. Ain't gonna lie. I love this part. Okay, saturation. Let's hear what we got with it and without it. That's so good, it's embarrassing, man. So let's break this down. So what we've got here is there's three different sections. This is Harmonics section. Now, coming out of quarantine, I think we're all going to start doing a lot more saturation and adding a lot more harmonics, because not all of us have all the tools we need to EQ, and EQing can be a little tricky, but saturation, overdrive, those types of things, these are going to be the tools that we use as much as this area right here. I think equalization is going to be useful, but I think this is going to take over the usage, because this is where you can construct emotion. This is where you can construct energy. This is where you can construct vibe, flow, etc., etc. Now this little section here, read up on harmonics. Become really familiar with them, because they're one of the best tools we have right now. So what this this is both even and odd harmonics. Now, even harmonics give you kind of a brighter sound. Odd harmonics can do a lot of different things, but they're not consistently one thing all the time, because they have a lot of variation to them. But when you do your own podcast, try these two, and then see if you like this one better. The overdrive is just that. Mechanically, I don't know what they're using to emulate this, but just like this guy was kind of like the guy with a quick temper. This guy's even got a quicker temper. So watch this. But you can see a use for it right away, right? I mean, use your imagination. You can hear a couple mixes from me real soon with that. So I'm going to bring the bass in. This is a copy of the gate stay level. Not a copy. It's a interpolation. But I've owned two of them in my lifetime. They're kind of hard to find. This is really good. And this is in the bundle. Now we've got another one of these guys. Oh man, they're good everywhere. Now this is dinero. It just lays it right in the mix, just really smooth. You got a little juice left in you? Let's try it. Let's try a little gasoline. Now here's with the music. Come to the end of the process, man. I hope you guys got a lot out of this. I'm using so many of their products now from the FX Collection too. You can see how they all work. They all work great. Check it out. Check it out, please, because these things, a lot of them don't exist in nature. You know what I'm saying? And I've shown you how every one can give you the intangible things that you need in a mix. Congratulations, Arturia. Some great work there.
Yeah, you guys cracked the code on that shit. You know, it takes a lot for me to add a plugin into my arsenal because I've already got so many. It's not like I need any more. And you know, and I tried the Arturia FX stuff, and the modulators were the first thing to me that really grabbed me. That flanger is the best flanger I have, and that Bitron pedal, and the DIM D. I don't know if you've noticed on the DIM D, you can click a button and get under the hood and change a bunch of under the hood presets, which make it like twice as powerful. That shit. I've been using those a bunch. The Bus Force is the only one that I've really gotten into on the FX2, but that FX1 is like the 636 Spring. I'm all into dirty shit. I love dirty shit. So that Arturia 636 is totally dirty. I think that's been the latest one added on the effects side as well.
Yeah, the overdrive knob on the Bus Force is like it's like just a grouchy old man when you get above the first two clicks, and then you dial it back to where you think you need it and you miss it.
Yeah, but it's so fun to dial it too far. So
yeah. Do you have any advice? And this is a tough question to answer, but do you have any advice on staying relevant and staying fresh as you journey through this wonderful, wonderful profession of ours? I got an answer. Just have a shitload of platinum records and 26,000 Grammys. That works. But what's your technique? You're only as good as your last credit. So whenever the plaque train stops, the work is probably going to stop. So hopefully the plaque train will just keep rolling. I mean, and like probably my biggest mix client right now is BTS. I've done maybe 36 BTS mixes at this point. And so, you know, credits like that certainly help keep the resume going. But because I do so many different things, like I bill myself as the weirdest resume in the music industry. And it's because across those 103 gold records are producer, mixer, recording engineer, songwriter, arranger, multi-instrumentalist, vocalist, fixer, you name it. I have done it on a platinum Grammy level, and wearing so many different hats and so many different genres that may seem really appealing to a lot of people, but I strongly advocate against being so broad unless you just love to work and learn new things. Because it's been really, really, like the problem is that I could never get myself to a Dave Pensado level as a mixer in notoriety or recognition because I'm so focused on other things and not only mixing. And as a producer, I can't get myself to a Timberland level as a producer because I'm mixing. And so I look for projects that kind of pull all of my skill levels together that I can really put into. And, you know, now that's artist development for me. Reinventing yourself is a tricky thing, man. It is a really tricky thing. And I think it's just a lot of listening. You know, you got to listen to what's current and then ask yourself if you want to chase it or be inspired by it or forget about it. I was listening to some work of yours, and you mixed Dis-Ease for BTS, right?
I did.
I love that mix. It cancels out everything you just said about not being at the top. That's a great mix, worthy of claiming to be at the top of your profession and the top of our profession. Can you describe? It's a whole different process. I mix a little bit from that part of the world, and I routinely get between 250 and I've had 400 tracks to mix, and I couldn't mix them individually.
Disease was over 250.
Yeah, the Reader's Digest version, and I'm sure nobody in the world knows what that means. So just give me a condensed version of the process, because it's a difficult challenge to mix stuff like that.
The great thing about BTS land is they're incredibly well organized, and you know what the mission is. And they give you good rough mixes that give you an idea of the song that you're mixing in the general feel that they're going for. So they really roadmap it for you very well. And but the big challenge with them is not only the track count, but it's all of the different song sections. So for instance, I mixed a song called Hey Mama for them, which was about 180 tracks. And it wasn't so much the track count, it was that it had 5 distinctly different musical sections with 5 sets of different musical tracks and vocals for 5 different musical sections that wove in and out of each other. And it was almost like having to play mastering engineer at the same time as mix engineer, because you had to make every individual part sound amazing and then transition perfectly from one out to the other, all through 5 different, completely different sections.
Yeah.
But the great thing about that is I mean, for me, like whenever I get a super challenge, I always want to be the guy that they're like, well, this is a real challenge. Who do we call? And sign me up for those. Those are always the ones that I want. So
yeah, I get a particular thrill out of solving a problem that's hard to solve inside the mix process. But enough about me today. Describe a typical Kanye session, because you've worked a lot with Kanye.
Most of my Kanye sessions, I'm not in the same room with him because I usually jump on the phone with him and have a brief conversation about what he wants and what he's looking for. And I've been working with him on and off since 2002. So I think I'm God, I've worked on a ton of Kanye stuff. The coolest thing about my role in Kanye land is I'm very often the guy that they call, or they used to. I haven't worked with them in a while, but I'm the guy that they call when they couldn't figure out how to do something, but they knew generally what they want. So I was always the guy that was like, oh, that's what you need? Okay. All right. Give me this many days and this much money and you'll have it. And I just became all right, Ken is going to solve that one for him. And all of those different gigs for Kanye just ran the spectrum from producing choirs to I did the horn. I produced the horn section on all of the lights, and I sang on all of the lights. I sang on power. It became all of these weird different roles that nobody expected me to be doing. And then other groups started finding out about that. And that was kind of how the Weirdest Resume was born. And like I had groups like Avenged Sevenfold hiring me to produce because of my work with Kanye. It's fucking crazy.
Wow. So I cruise around the internet quite a bit, and I noticed that you were using a Massey L2007 limiter on a vocal. Is that was that an aberration, or do you do that? And if you do it, why? And teach me how to do it.
I use it now. I think I've swapped that out for a UAD distressor lately, but it's the same exact concept. It's basically compression first, and then when I've got the compression dialed in and I think it's almost there, and I'll just limit it a little bit more. And the great thing about that, the Massey L2007 is on its fastest settings, it gives you a little bit of that dirt, kind of like the L1 does, but much more musically. And it just keeps your vocal right there. And yeah, that one or the UAD distressor are usually my limiting finishers on a vocal chain.
What's the most annoying frequency that you run into, and what solution have you found for it?
God, I hate the mid-range. I have a love-hate relationship with mid-range. Usually what bites me the worst is like 4K. 4K always seems to be a little bit problematic in that area. And I either find notch EQs or Soothe 2 is great. There's a couple things like Soothe that I think work really well. But usually it's kind of just listening and sometimes I'll use like spreading, use the Haas effect or something like that to get something out of the way of the lead vocal so that not so much mid-range is building up right where it needs to be. But yeah, 4K is my nemesis.
Do you ever, I recently rediscovered the old Siemens EQ. I think in the FX Collection 2 bundle. I think they call it a Cital 295.
Citral, I think. Yeah, I've been using that.
But that real piece of gear, and they did an excellent job of emulating it. But I use that to clear out the harshness of the mid range. It works really well, but you can still keep a lot of the power that you get in the mid range.
I've been using that exactly differently. I've been using that to boost the mid range of the vocal and bring out the clarity of the vocal, and then I'll use other tools if it gets a little bit harsh to pull tiny little pieces out. But I really like the presence on that thing. Vocals seem to be what I've been starting to reach for it on, and leaving it after I work with it. So, but I also find, like, I don't know if you can see them, but I've got these Neumann PEV EQs, PEV EQs back there.
Yeah.
And the Citral EQ is real similar to those. And so if I don't feel like, if I'm feeling awfully lazy, then the Citral will be the perfect replacement for that.
What are the pros and cons of mastering your own mixes? I personally can't do it. I
master while I mix. Everything is the same. It's all one thing to me.
That's what I do. Yeah.
And so, because when I finish a mix, I don't want any questions about what that shit is going to sound like on the radio or streaming or anything. I want to be able to have the total confidence to send it to my client and go, done, boom.
Yeah.
But once they approve it, then I will print passes with my last stage limiter removed, so that the mastering engineer can still do their work, and but that they hear what my clients have approved and can work from the uncompressed of the same exact mix. But yeah, I feel like it's easier to get it to it's easier for me to know when done is done if it sounds completely mastered, finished.
Yeah. So
I dial it in as much as I can.
I'm going to ask you an impossible question, and I advise you not to answer it. What album or mix shows your full skill and talent?
I tell you, the latest Grizzly Adams record. So we produce, and when I say we, I have a production partner named Brent Colatalo. We are the production team Catalyst, and Catalyst produces an independent artist named Grizzly Adams, and we put out about 8 songs during the pandemic, starting with Too Close to Fire, 28, Cave In, Foolish, Skeletons. And that stuff is because I'm recording, producing, playing, mixing, arranging, the whole, it really takes everything that I can do and kind of pulls it all together into that project really nicely. And we've been getting great feedback on that project too. So yeah, I would say that's pretty representative of the range of skill sets. And also because in Grizzly Land, we often have super heavy, like 808-ish type trap drums over Americana twangy vocals. And so it allows me to pull the urban sides of my experience into kind of a pop rock setting as well, which is really fun for me. And
I got a double question for you. A while back, I was watching your video on how to set up your mix, and the way I do it is I have one of my amazing assistants do it for me.
Yeah,
but
me too.
But my guidelines to them was really similar to yours, and so as a commercial, a complete and total plug right now. Tell them the name of that video and let's encourage them to go do that, because I think that can save you tons of time and enhance your creativity so easily.
I actually think I removed that video because it was getting old. But here's the thing. I show that. So I do a free live broadcast on YouTube called Mixing Night.
Yeah.
And on Mixing Night, I show how to set up your session all the time. I can't think of one in particular, but I know on Mixing Night, I'm constantly like, okay, here's the full mix. Here's, 808s, drums, low to high, and then bass line, and then, piano and guitars, and then synths, and then backing vocals, lead vocal, effects, master, rough mix. That's usually how I lay it out. And but yeah, or session organization, as probably more your assistants know than you, is, boy, do we need to do better as an industry, because when ask any of BTS's mixers, man, when those sessions show up, they are immaculate. They are just exactly the way that you would want them. And most of the time when we get sessions from American artists, they're just not very organized. Come on, American engineers, do better. Do better.
So it's time for Batter's Box, and
Hit me.
you're familiar with it? And
I am.
so my favorite answer is you dumbass. What are you asking? I don't want to give you an answer for that. So that's the only way you can win.
Okay.
So tape or tubes?
Tubes.
Presets.
Not on what instrument they're supposed to be used on. Otherwise, yes.
Virtual synthesizers.
Love them. Favorites would be Omnisphere, the Arturia Pigments, VA Collection.
They're Mellotron. You like that?
Oh God, yeah. No, anybody our age is a Mellotron freak. I mean, how could you not be? So
okay, beats per minute, BPMs.
114, Uptown Funk.
Wow. Major or minor key?
Major.
Favorite outboard gear?
Manly Varimu probably would compete.
Samples.
I recreate them better than anybody on the planet.
You get hired for that a lot too.
I do.
Biggest influence?
You're one of them.
You can do better.
Besides Dave Pensado, biggest influence, probably my parents.
Wow.
Taught me work ethic and how to be a good human. And in this business, those two things go a very long way.
Strings.
16 strings on the J. Cole album, Born Sinner.
Wow.
I produced live strings on 6 songs on that. We had 16 strings at the Avatar Studio A. God, what a session. Oh, it was beautiful.
Well, you did pretty good. You got 9 out of 10. The Dave Pensado one was wrong. The one thing, the reason I talked about strings is because me personally, I think that strings can kind of take a little bit of the energy or the badness or the just sledgehammer hitting you over the head mix and diluting all of those things. But with you, it didn't dilute, it enhanced. How did you do that?
I think a lot of guys like Kanye and J. Cole and Drake and people like that bring me into their world so that I can bring elements from other worlds into what they do in a really authentic kind of a way. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, if you just kind of glance at my resume, it looks really hip hop heavy, but a lot of those hip hop credits are like strings and, producing strings and choirs on J. Cole and producing the choirs and live band on Drake, Lord knows, things like that. The horn section on All of the Lights. A lot of that are, these guys have ideas of music that they want to create and they know what they want it to hear like bass, they know what they want it to sound like basically, but they don't have any idea how to get it. So a guy like me comes along and goes, I said, like J. Cole was a perfect example. We had like a 4-hour meeting. He played me a ton of stuff. I did a bunch of listening and then we picked a bunch of songs and those were all the songs that I worked on. And he showed up on the day of the sessions and thankfully loved everything. It could have gone really bad. But the thing that J. Cole said to me was when he walked in, when the string players were rehearsing and playing through his song, and he just jaw dropped when he heard them playing his song. And he said, I always thought that was just this enhanced, but that is totally different than this. And I'm like, yeah, it's all of those inflections and the just the different moods and sounds that you can get out of the strings is like, the Rolly is, I'm a big fan of the Rolly. And the Rolly is one of those things that's an incredible tool to be able to get in between the perfect notes of today's music. And you know, everything is so pitch perfect when you hear a violin ever so slightly out of tune, but not too out of tune.
Mm-hmm.
That's a different mood for you, you know.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I guess we're going to have to shut down. I want to leave, and I'm going to do something a little different. Feel free to chime in, but while we're at the end of the show, I want to say, you know, thank you for Arturia for allowing us to do this and promoting us, and they got us together, so that's a pretty good thing.
Thank you, guys.
I think that when you said earlier in the show about trying to master too many things, I think that you're 100% right. But I've noticed over the course of my musical journey, which is really years ago, you know, I mean, I started pretty young because my mom was pretty amazing, and I think if the elements you choose to master, which you've done, lend itself to doing a lot of elements in the musical world really well, extremely well, because if you use always looking to see what the Beatles did, then you're not gonna be able to do what you do. So I've noticed with you that you work on the intangibles a lot, whether it's subconscious or conscious. Your music feels well. The parts you contribute feel like they were always there. That's how good they were. You don't really worship the technology, but you know how to use it so well that it becomes another tool. And it's a very difficult tool to get. Like if you listen to anything that comes out of Muscle Shoals or the Wrecking Crew or Memphis, those guys don't play in tune, they don't play in time, but it's the best greasy feel on earth, you know? And so
feel is everything.
I'm thinking that to add, I guess, to what you said, if you really want to get to the level that you're at, and you really enjoy all the different elements that you work in, because you always add who you are and how you feel and the emotions that you love in other work. A hit song without feel and emotion and vibe is never going to happen. It's
not a hit song, definitely.
Yeah.
That's
And so sometimes the clients will give us enough to where we can just mix it. Sometimes we have to add it. Sometimes we have to sit there and move every single drum, and it takes about 4 hours just to get a groove, right? So anyway, check out Kent's work. He's exemplary, and you can learn a lot. None of us ever work alike, but through my career, I've cherry picked little this from this guy, this from this guy, this from this guy, and then you make it your own. And if you want to know more about Ken, look at the people that are his heroes, and then that'll give you a head start towards catching him.